Welcome to Take a Breath, a podcast for creating practical calm in the messy middle of midlife. I'm Polly, and this is your space to pause. Because life in midlife is full on, between work, family, menopause, and the mental load, your nervous system can easily end up in constant overdrive, leaving you feeling exhausted, reactive, and overwhelmed by even the smallest things. Each week, I'll share my own tools alongside honest conversations and practical nervous system support to help you create more calm, peace, joy, and inner steadiness. So whenever you're ready, let's take a breath in through the nose, feel your belly rise, your ribs expand, and as you exhale, let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to Take a Breath. Now, this week I am talking to Jen O'Brien. Now, one of the things I find myself talking about time and time again to my clients on this podcast is that creating calm really isn't simply about feeling less stressed. It's about creating enough space to hear yourself again. Because when we're constantly rushing around and we're reacting and meeting everyone else's expectations, it's really easy to lose sight of who we truly are underneath all the roles that we play. And I think that's why so many of us find midlife both unsettling and also incredibly liberating. It's often the first time we stop and we ask ourselves, okay, is this still the life I want to live? Is this really me? And often it's quite revealing when we get the answer, because so many of us, and what I've see again and again, we want something more, we want something different. We feel like we need to change direction in some way. And today's guest is someone who has asked herself those very questions and had a very successful career. So Jen O'Brien she began her career as an aeronautical engineer, working with major airlines like British Airways, Aer Lingus, before making what many would describe as a really huge leap. So in her 40s, she left behind a successful professional identity to create Music Broth, which is an incredible community organisation that has grown from just 8 donated musical instruments to a library of more than 4,000 instruments, which are loaned to thousands of people across Scotland and helping them to discover the joy and connection that music can bring. But this conversation isn't really about changing careers. It's more about identity, listening to your intuition. It's about authenticity. We explore a lot, actually. We explore what happens when the version of yourself you spent years becoming no longer feels like the version you're meant to be anymore. We talk about the courage that it takes to let go of old labels, why so many of us wait for permission to take those leaps, and how learning to pause and listen and trust ourselves is really what we need to be doing in order to move in the directions that is calling us. If you've ever found yourself wondering, who am I now? We all change. It's what happens. What you want, what you desire is going to change. So if you're feeling that quiet nudge that there's another chapter waiting for you, I really do think you're going to get so much from this conversation. So without further ado, please welcome the absolutely wonderful Jen O'Brien. Jen, welcome to Take a Breath. I'm delighted to have you on the pod. So yeah, welcome. Looking forward to our chat.
Thanks, Polly. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Jen, before we get started, can you just tell us all a bit about how you've arrived here? I know that's a massive question, but you wear a lot of hats currently. You've worn hats in the past, and I love this idea of, as we come into midlife, that often the hat we've worn for so long starts to change and we're more aware of it. So I know that you started your career, let's say, as an aeronautical engineer. So perhaps we could just start with that, how you became an aeronautical engineer, and then what really happened when you hit midlife. What was coming up for you then?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm a person who I suppose has always been interested in many, many things. I'm a very curious person. I strongly identify with that. And I grew up on a small farm in Ireland, so there wasn't a lot of engineering options around me. However, I was really good at maths and science and things like that in school. And I grew up in an age where that wasn't the norm for girls, shall we say. And even to the point that my dad had to write a note to the teachers to tell them I was allowed to do these subjects in school. We're going a wee bit back in Ireland now, but that was the case. But yeah, my teachers were in the main very encouraging, and I wanted to do engineering, and I was fascinated by flying really, and you know how that actually happens. So there was only two colleges in Ireland that at the time took aeronautical engineering as a subject. One was in Limerick, and the other one was in Belfast, and I applied to both, and I got in both, and did studied really hard, got my grades, and then I went to University of Limerick and studied aeronautical engineering. And then I did an internship at Boeing in America, which was amazing, brilliant experience. And I got asked back the following year to do my final year project or my thesis, but for Boeing as well as a practical subject that they could use the outcomes. So yeah, I really found my groove there and became an engineer. I worked in Aer Lingus, I worked in British Airways for a time. I was good at what I was doing. I moved around a lot. So I lived in Seattle for a while, and then I lived in Dublin for a while, and I traveled a lot, as you get to do when you work for an airline, which is great. And I eventually moved up to Glasgow, and that was my interest at the time. It was more in the heavy maintenance side, so working on more detailed structural repairs for aircraft.
Mhm.
And then I got the opportunity to be part of a change team for the company that I worked for. So I ended up working with top management of the company. And then I moved into the air quality and noise department. Um, I was the air quality and noise manager for the
Okay.
airline. So that involved like traveling around to I guess it's like your UN conference of airlines and stuff. So you're literally in a room with hundreds of other people and somebody's translating in your ear the live chat that's happening, and you get to vote on things and propose things for, international regulations and changes and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I've always kind of done my own thing, and while I've had people in my life supporting me, it's kind of been on me to do what I do. And I think working together with people that are in your life is really important to me, and I'm very clear at communicating these are my needs, and but also being super flexible and working with the folks that are around me as well and being caring for those. So then about a couple of years into the job in the environment team, in I decided that it wasn't doing it for me anymore.
Was that just start? How did that start? Was it sort of a decision that you suddenly like, oh my gosh, this isn't what I'm, if this isn't firing me up anymore? Or was this like a gradual niggle which grew and expanded?
So there was a couple of things. One thing was that it's one of those things where I'm not a ladder climber. I'm a person who just wants to do what I'm interested in. So I think I heard a quote from someone else, and it was like, I climbed so far that I didn't like the view. And I kind of was like, okay, I like deeply resonated with that. I was also I studied for a master's in environmental architecture because I was really interested in that. It was called Advanced Environmental and Energy Studies. So I was doing that at the same time as full time working, and I was traveling a lot. And then I had my first little boy, and that kind of put a lot of things into perspective as well. So it was kind of a combination of factors. The feelings were there. I'm not really a person who does showing up to meetings and politicking. I'm myself, no matter what context I'm in. So that doesn't, I'll be telling people straight. So yeah, there was a couple of things that I was like, this is not just not sitting with me as a role now. I loved my engineering role because it's very, very clear. You're making decisions that are based on safety, security, and that's your number one priority. And then when you get into more of a political role, it's a little bit different. So yeah, I prefer to go into meetings or where the decisions are made in the meetings than in the corridors outside. So that kind of
Hmm.
lifestyle was really not. And then when I had my little guy, I was like, I don't want to be 400 miles away from him, 1,000 miles away from him. And I don't want to be doing work that I can't justify being away from him in that way. And it aligned with my uh, more stronger ethos into environmental issues as well, which I've always had. I grew up on a farm, so
Yeah.
the environment has always been really integral to what I do. Um, but yeah, that going away and doing that course as well at the same time, kind of everything was lining up for itself, really. So some of it
Right.
was a decision. I definitely had to make a decision to leave, but
Yeah.
some of it was had been built in. Yeah, things had
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
along the way.
And so you then had a big change of direction at 41 then.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened. Why do you think that happened at that particular stage in your life? I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love, and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their true hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their true collagen powder into the coffee. Now it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off.
So I changed careers and started working for a local environmental charity and became project manager there and was working on that. And then I've always been a musician and a creative person. It's always been integrally part of what I've done. I've never had any musical training whatsoever. It's all self-taught because I grew up in a place where there wasn't a lot of music happening. Well, there's music happening around us. I mean, it's Ireland, you know what I mean? But it wasn't being played in my house much or anything like that. And there was definitely like there's five of us kids and I'm the oldest, so there wasn't tons of money going around for from lessons or anything like that either. So as a musician, I went to an event and it was kind of like putting people together in bands for a day and recording something. And I met some people there, and we had this idea. There was a local artist that had passed away and left instruments to their nephew. And we were like, how do we share these in the community? Because we don't want to sell them because it's like sentimental. And the idea for a musical instrument library was born. And we called it Music Broth. And I started just volunteering as setting it up. And here I am nearly 10 years later. And I'm still doing it. And we've grown from those eight instruments, we've grown to over 4,000 instruments now. We're supporting a couple of thousand people across Scotland. We've got a base in Glasgow. I've got two other people working for me most days. So they're in looking after the library today. And then about 15 tutors as well, because when people started borrowing instruments from the musical instrument library, they were like, can you teach us how to play? So we started doing that as well. Aye. So
Amazing. So when you were engineering, were you still playing your music and were you song because you write your own songs as well? So you were doing all of that alongside the engineering.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I've always done that. I used to write stuff when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, like
Right.
poetry and
Okay.
stuff, and it became songwriting then. Um, and yeah, I mean, my I joined a new band when my youngest boy was a month old.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, I like to, like I say, I'm kind of just I like to have lots going on, but I'm not. I don't like be stressy about it, you know? Everything kind of fits together.
Yeah.
So I've learned that a lot in my life as well, is that it's great to have lots of different interests because then when you're into one thing or another thing, and there's a quiet period in one, you can pick up something else, you
Hmm.
know, so you can bounce around. The music has always been part of what I do, and then it just felt like when this opportunity to start something, it was on the environmental side, you know, saving instruments from landfill, um, community side, getting things back into reuse and supporting people who otherwise don't have access to music, which I didn't when I was little, you know. And then also the engineering side as well, because there's lots of like fixing involved. We get
Yeah.
instruments donated in any kind of condition. There's like, and there's lots of, you know, technical stuff that you need to do to put on a gig and an event and stuff like that. So it just felt everything coming together really nicely, like a marriage of things, and it just sat really well in my passion. And I just felt also I was at a time in my life that I didn't want to have a boss anymore. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like I've always done my own thing, like I said, and it just felt right to take a jump. But it wasn't without, you know, scary bits, you know?
Of
So
course. I
yeah.
mean, how did it feel to let go of that identity of aeronautical engineer? You know, that sounds very impressive when you say it. Did that feel hard?
A little bit. Yeah, it's a bit of a sexy title, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it did a little bit. I guess for me it was like um I felt like I'd done my bit there, you know. I'd done my path and I was a good engineer. I've been a good engineer. And the qualifications and stuff, they don't leave you. So if I wanted to go back to it, I guess I could. But the further away I've gone from it, the I'm very, very happy with what I'm doing now. So
Mhm.
so there was definitely a bit of a leaping off a cliff moment and yeah, I have strongly identified as an engineer in the past, but I also strongly identify as a musician. So
Yeah, so I
and
think that's obviously really, so helpful because I'm thinking of so many women who get to this point in midlife and they they identify themselves with one thing, perhaps that is a job title, perhaps that is as a mother, perhaps that I don't know, it is something that they've always done. And they now have this niggle that there's something more for them, or they want to change direction, or it's a very common thing, I think, when we get to this point. Why do you think that might be, firstly? And what would you say to someone who's really terrified of jumping off that cliff and taking that step into the thing that is drawing them forwards?
yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think we're privileged to experience that midlife sort of change in the way it's either like you've had caring responsibilities or something like that. Maybe they're dropping off, or maybe they're just starting for you and you have a different responsibility. And hormones and things like that as well. They're a great eye opener, aren't they? You know, when those sort of things change. So I actually see that as a privilege in that some people who don't go through those changes don't have the experience of your eyes being more opened. And I think there's something also about calling it even midlife. It's like, whoa, hang on, I've done this. What am I going to do with the next bit? If we're halfway here, what's happening? You know, what do I actually want to do? So I think that's a really clear thing that happens to us as women in particular, and it's very important that we honor that. There's something about a rite of passage there, and something about very much listening to ourselves. I think we can spend a lot of time caring about other people and listening to what other people, and there's a huge societal pressure on women as well to just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
conform with what society expects us to do as such in timelines and that. So I think there's all of those things that we maybe can question. You know, we're maybe a little bit more stable in our life, and just to question, what do I actually want to do? Who am I actually as a person?
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes we're trying to fit everybody else's expectations rather than actually trusting our own instincts of what we're being called forwards to do. Was there a point for you, Jen, where you felt like you had to stop fitting into other people's expectations? and really, really start. You said that you do what you want to do and you always have
Mhm.
done, but how did it affect the people around you, changing from aeronautical engineer to doing something perhaps which isn't as, which was a little bit more risky, perhaps a little bit more scary?
Yeah, I think some people were worried,
Mhm.
you know, because it is, that's a good career and a good job and a good trajectory, and but I think I'm strong enough to trust my own instinct. And I did have support around me, I have a partner, and he's been great, but um, I think at the time there was definitely a fear factor and a scariness about it,
Mhm.
and like both of us were working then in a 6 month rolling contract kind of jobs. So there was no permanent, we had a young child. There was no permanency happening there. So there was a leaping off point. But um, I just the overwhelming urge to be present for my young person and to do what I wanted to do was greater than that somehow.
Yes.
And I've read a really good study recently, actually, as just like which kind of backs that up. I didn't know it at the time. I mostly run on gut feel and figure things out later. But they talked about they did longitudinal study of people who made big life changes or went for the thing that they wanted to do. And even people who that turned out to be a failure as such, and whatever failure means as well. I don't really believe in that, but for it didn't work out for them, whatever way. Their longest regret time, the average longest regret time was like 3 months. So, you know, and that even reinforced it even more to me. Hearing that now was like you can spend years and years of your life thinking, oh, I should do that. Should I do that? Oh, and the people who actually go out and do it, even if it didn't work out, their longest time ever getting it was 3 months. So
Yeah.
why spend those years like worrying about it? Do the thing and then
Yeah.
figure it out,
That's
after
a
that.
great study. I've not heard of that study
Yeah.
before, but it's so true. You can spend years going, what if it doesn't work? But actually, unless you actually try, you're never going to know. So you might
Yeah.
as well try it, and you've got to weigh up your risks, obviously, but give it a go. I really love that. You talk, Jen, just now you talked about gut feel, trusting your instincts. So obviously you have quite a strong intuition. You listen to that. Again, this is something I think modern life really does cover up for so many of us. We lose that connection with that with our own intuition. We forget how to listen to it, but each and every one of us has it, and I truly believe that. And it's about tuning back into it. How have you managed to keep yours so strong and intact?
I think part of it was when I had kids, to be honest, that you go through that whole thing and you're so tired, and then you're reading the sleep training advice and la la la, and um, I found the more I just listened to me, and the more I listened to them and their needs, and the more I just tuned into the present and where we were, our days would go better, and I just felt I was making the right decisions for the people who were in front of me, and not anyone else's chatter. So
Mm.
that really helped. I think also I'm really good at just pausing and tuning in and just holding myself for a moment and going, okay, what's going on here? What's actually going on here? What am I feeling? Or is this interaction that I'm having about this person, or is it about me? And it doesn't have to be in the moment when you're having a conversation with someone. It can be afterwards. But I'm very good at that for some reason, that I've just in my life like slowly learned to do that. I wouldn't say I was good at that when I was younger. I'd say I was more reactive and more, um, yeah, I've always been quite headstrong. So uh, the more reactive side of headstrong, shall we say, when I was a teenager and so on.
I
But
mean, yeah.
now I've grown to see it as an asset that you can have a strong notion of yourself, but also be aware of your surroundings and understand how other people fit into that picture. But I also think that being really clear about your needs is actually an asset that um, if you can express yourself and ask for what you want, like if I need an hour to go and do some music recording or something like that, and I can express that to my partner and my kids and say, look, okay, summertime's coming up. We're in summertime now. It's the school holidays. I'm going to need this Tuesday and this Wednesday and this time or whatever. Then that's really clear, and they know where they stand. I know where they stand. I'm happy they're doing their thing, I'm doing mine. And then I come back to the relationship with my family and it's much better because I've had that time out. So I think we fail to notice that sometimes in ourselves as well. Sometimes we get caught up in, oh, I must do this and I must do that and I must look after this person and that person. And by not looking after ourselves, we're actually can build resentment or like a crunchiness that we can't put our finger on, because we're neglecting a part of ourselves that needs to be served and looked after as well. So yeah.
And have you always been quite good at doing that? Has that been another thing which is just, or is that something you've had to learn over the time?
Yeah, it's definitely been a learn. Definitely pausing and listening has been a learning curve rather
Hmm.
than reacting and figuring out afterwards
Yeah.
why I've
Yeah.
reacted a certain way. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm just intentionally putting pauses into my day and not, not rushing straight from work to pick up the kids, having a tiny pause there somewhere where I can just tune in and refocus. Okay, this is this time now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I absolutely love what you said because I remember when I had my kids were small, for me, the only thing which I really did do without guilt. So for me, it was without the guilt was to take myself off for a run. And to go and give myself time and space that way because I just felt that was doing me so much good. But I probably was terrible otherwise at expressing my own needs. I felt like I just had this terrible guilt if I wasn't, if I was taking more time than that. I would then take it out on the kids because I felt resentful that I wasn't getting my needs met. I wasn't giving myself the time and the space that I needed. And I have since learned, wow, how effective it is when you do exactly that, when you take small pauses, when you tune into how you feel, what you need, and you give it to yourself. And it doesn't have to be hours of time, it can simply be those moments to just understand what you need. But I love what you say. It's also like, right, I'm going to go and be creative. I'm going, what do you need in that moment? And it exercise, yes, is great, but there might be other things, your other desires and whatever it might be, which need to be fulfilled so that you can then be more present with the ones you love or the things that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say to folks like that mightn't feel comfortable at first, but what are you
Yeah.
going to lose by trying it?
Yeah.
If you say to someone, "Look, I need an hour. I'm going to do this." It doesn't matter what it is. If you want to, do some drawing, go for a run, you know, sit by yourself in the forest for an hour, like who's going to push back on that? And if they do push back on that, then that tells you something about them. And maybe it's not the right moment, maybe it's not the right timing, but the more you push that as not even push is not the thing to say, but like ask for that space that you need. We all have it. We're humans. We need time and space for ourselves,
Mm.
and we function much better in that way. So I think the more that we can understand ourselves, to know what we need first of all, so that the person then can pick up on that and they know it's coming from a place where it's really important to us. And the more we can communicate that, and then it's much clearer. I mean, if you have a partner and they said, "Hey, I just need an hour. I need to like," would your feeling be to go, "No, that's not acceptable," So why
Yeah.
do we have that inner monologue about ourselves and going, that kind of thing? And I think some of it is societal. Like no matter what way, as a woman, you raise your children, there's somebody who has a judgment question on it. Um,
Yeah.
but I would advise people to just ditch the guilt in that way. Personally, as I don't believe in guilt as an emotion. It's very backward-looking emotion. So
Yeah.
it's either you've made a mistake and you learn from the mistake and you move on, or it tells you something not to do in the future. But sitting in guilt and dwelling in guilt, which is usually put on you by somebody else, and yeah, is in the past. There's nothing you can do about it. That doesn't resonate with me. I rather much be, okay, we're in the present situation. What can we do about this now?
You talk a lot about permission. So, permission to be you, to be yourself. So what do you think most of us are actually waiting for permission to do?
Oh, I think this ties in a little bit with like what you were saying about identifying and how you identify yourself um, in the past versus now. Uh, so I think there's some of that for me is a bit of skin shedding or letting go of the perception of yourself if you're like, oh, I'm a person who always does this, or I'm a person who always does that. So there's maybe a bit of questioning why. Like, why are you the person who, like, really? Are you still that person? And also, why do you need to give yourself permission to do something? Or who is the voice in your head that is giving you? Is that an old version of you? Is that someone in your family that you don't maybe even associate with anymore, who's embedded themselves in your head somewhere? Is it, the patriarchy? Is it the norms that sit around us? Who's telling you this? So I just say, like, that's a really good step, just to question that.
Mm.
Who is that? Is that really you? And then, like you say, just pausing and tuning in really helps clarify that question, I think.
Yeah, we have so many labels that we give to ourselves. It's kind of really identifying who are we underneath all those labels without putting all those hats on. Who are we underneath? And can we just be that person? Again, going back to that connection with ourselves, knowing ourselves, what do we need? And I do think as we hit midlife and we go through menopause, our estrogen levels change. It's almost like we take off we take off this sort of layer, these rose tinted glasses that we've seen the world through, and suddenly the rawness of everything is exposed, and it's good, it's refreshing for some, but it can also be quite revealing of what has been underneath the surface all along. But perhaps we've been very, very good at not noticing it, covering up, avoiding it. And actually now it's a time, it's like, right, let's not try and distract ourselves from that anymore. Let's step into the woman that we are, because actually this is a great time to fully feel it and be ourselves. And we get to choose who we want to be and how we want to show up day by day, rather than having to shape shift and mold ourselves into what is expected of us. And for me, this has been so huge. I mean, it really has. I was a brilliant shapeshifter. I could wear all the hats. I could be whoever anyone wanted me to be. And it's bloody exhausting more than anything else. And you're never feeling truly authentically yourself. So you never quite know who you are. It's confusing. So and I'm still this is still very much work in progress for me. It's like, right, show up, be you, but you can only do that when you pause, you give yourself some time and space, you tune in, you listen to your intuition, and it's all revealed. So all of what we've spoken about so far is so intertwined with just discovering who you are, and then that is when often these breadcrumbs of where we want to go in terms of what's next start coming. Or it might be a very strong feeling that you need to do something different, and then you just follow that.
Absolutely. And not to fear it as well. And it doesn't have to be like overnight, oh, I'm now this and I'm not this. It's like
Yeah.
feel it out, try it. Try some hats on, see how they fit.
Yeah.
And you can dabble in things and see so you might have a strong feeling about something and it doesn't work for you, just there's no harm in trying stuff out. Um, yeah, and I think that there's definitely for me, I I don't know. I can be in different rooms as a musician or as an engineer or as a mom or I do running as well. And I mean, but I'm still myself, you know? And that's like really, really important to me. I don't want to be showing up in a conversation with anyone where I'm not expressing who I am.
Yeah.
So being in tune with that means that I can do different things, but I can carry the authenticity of myself into every situation. So I think that's really important for me. And I've got an internal compass, and I know if I'm in a situation and I'm havering, I'm moving away from that. Havering, I think, is quite a Scottish term, but moving away from moving away from that central point, I can feel it. I've got a good gut feel about it. I'm like, who am I
Yeah.
here? What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
But it's not a straightforward thing to always learn. And I do think that midlife has definitely helped with that, with figuring that out and being much more clear for me.
Do you have any particular practices that you do regularly, consistently, which help you with that?
Yeah, I'm like yourself. I like a long run. I really love a long run, and I'm quite a high energy person. So burning off some of that energy is really, really useful for me. And I like to be in nature, so I like to be out. I tend to run mostly hills and forests and stuff like that. I'm lucky that I get to be in those places. I love a sea swim any time of the year. So I live in Scotland and I am in the water in my bikini in November. So
Oh my God, that must be cold.
yeah, but it feels like a reset for me being in the water and having that ceremony. It feels very much a reset for me. And then very like day to day, just really simple things like just pausing. I set myself a couple of intentions every year based on what I feel needs readjusting, you know. And I run my year from solstice, so a Gael, I'm a Celt by nature. Um, and I run my year from that time of year. So my winter solstice is kind of my new year. So I do a wee reset there and figure out. I like to move with the seasons and understand what's happening for us as humans living in this environment that has seasons.
Mm.
So that can be something simple. I mean, one year it was a finish a cup of tea, you know, actually finish a cup of tea. Like, it was
Mhm.
totally simple like that. Um, this year's I've got some intentions about putting more music out. So, you know, that's a bigger intention, uh, but it's equally valid, you know. Yeah, I found that especially with small kids, there was, you know, just half drunk cold cups of tea hanging about.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
that's, you know, if I can sit down for a minute and finish an actual hot cup of tea, that's a pause in my day, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I think those kind of things, being intentional about stuff,
I mean, I think
that's really helpful.
intentions and being intentional are more powerful than I think any of us give credit for, because it sort of gives us a North Star of, as you say, even something as simple as finishing a cup of tea. But actually, there's so much power in that, because it's just making you aware that actually you do need that time to sit down, slow down, have a pause for yourself. And unless we're intentional about these things, it just nothing ever really happens or goes forward. I also have intentions for a year, but I love to set an intention for most days, even if it's like, you know, how I want to show up today. You know, what energy am I bringing into the day to day? And that for me really helps, just to remind myself that, you know, again, I'm in charge. I'm in charge of my day. I'm in charge of my time. I'm in charge of my energy, and I can be who I want to be today. And again, you just only need a couple of minutes. You know, I love my breathwork practice to do that. But I think again, that's a nice way to just set yourself up for to do and be the way that you want to be. Um,
Absolutely. I think that the like my focusing for this year has like long-term things that need piecemeal work that builds up to it. So like releasing music, there's aspects that build up to that. But also one of my intentions for this year is to just be more aware of the seasonality of around us. So it's just simply, oh, there's oxeye daisies out now. That's this time of year. Or, oh, we're getting into hawthorn season or whatever it is. So, you know, it can be as simple as that. And that's like a daily practice. Then you're just like noticing and being present, as well as having a more longer term maybe that you're building towards. And I think both of those are important things in our life that we have. Oh, I want to do a thing that's a bigger thing, and I want to be focusing and taking small steps towards that. But we
mhm.
also want to be combining that with feeling very present and actually living our day to day. Because if you're continuously focused on the future thing, that
Yeah,
becomes overwhelming as well, unless you're taking small steps towards it, you know.
yeah, I totally agree. So you talk a lot about music, making music, creativity, writing songs, creating music. That is all about really nurturing your creativity. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, I'm presuming again that is through all of what we've just talked about giving yourself that time, that space, giving yourself what you need, allowing that to flow to you, through you. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it needs dedication. So it's a combination of things for me. Sometimes I'm in a creative space emotionally or within myself, and it's almost like a song needs to come through me or something needs to come out. And in those situations, I will just act on it. So I could be doing something else, and just go, okay, I need to just get this down, or I need to pause, or I need to voice note this, or I need to whatever I need to do. And I will do that. And I can tell like that's important in that time, and it's really important. And then sometimes I set aside dedicated time as well. So we're organization Music Broth. We don't work on Wednesdays. We're all creative people that work there. So we don't work in the organization on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is our Saturday because the music industry goes on all weekend and evenings and all kinds of things. So that is my creative time. I'm in the studio on Wednesdays. I'm figuring out what I'm doing musically. I might be collaborating with somebody. I might be focusing on writing my own stuff. I might be doing that sweet vocal that I need to do and hope that my neighbors are not cutting down trees or
Mhm.
something,
Yeah.
So I could be
Yeah.
doing any of those things. But yeah, so it's a combination of both for me. It's a carving out specific time when I need to focus on things, but it's also honoring the when a creative urge is there as well. And like what we talked about, having a little bit of space in your day means that you can, honor those urges if it comes in or you need, or, for somebody else, it might be, oh, I've done 16 emails today. I'm really tired, but a walk would do me good. And if you have those wee pauses, then that gives you energy to do the next thing. So yeah, it's a bit both for me. Sometimes it's um, I need to organize things. So if I've got a gig and I have to go and perform or a festival or something like that, I have to organize childcare. I need to organize, my working life around it. So it takes a bit of effort, but I find that it's so worth it. And I think, like we spoke earlier, I've got more energy to put back into other things if I take the effort to do that. And again, truly, authentically being yourself. I identify as a creative person, as a musician, and me sacrificing part of that in my life would just not be being me. It'd be like losing a limb, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's not who I am if I'm not being creative. There's something missing, and I wouldn't be me. Yeah.
Have there been periods where you feel like your creative juices have dried up? And, for anyone who is listening, how do you get those flowing again?
Definitely. I mean, it was really hard when my kids were really small. Just so because you're just so tired, like you're just not getting any sleep. And I was breastfeeding as well. So and there's not even 2 years between my two boys. So that was hard. But I still joined a new band and stuff and started writing at that time. So it just felt like really intense bursts at that point. Like I'd go to band practice, and because I had an hour and a half where I wasn't breastfeeding, I'd come back. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, there's been times where I'm just going, oh, there's just nothing. I've just got nothing right now. And then sometimes if I start, if I just sit down and go, right, this is a bit of time, let me see what's coming through. Or also I just trust the process quite a lot because I'll have a time where I won't be, there won't be anything like desperately needing to come out of me in terms of songwriting. But I just trust that that'll come back. So I really just trust that. Like I've just had a really period in May where I had like tons of ideas and I've like 600 voice notes now on my phone and like loads of wee sketches and stuff. And then June's been a little bit quieter in my head. So I just trust that the May things will become something and June doesn't need to be doing that because I'm doing other things. I'm working quite hard. Kids are finishing off school. So yeah, I think your energy can flow and ebb and flow with each different situation in your life, and don't panic.
Yeah, I relate to that, and I think trust is the word, isn't it? It's like trust in there. It's there. It's within you. And often, yeah, I find that sometimes you're sort of you want to, what you want to create, but you just don't know the how isn't coming to you, or it's not. So actually, it's about. For me, it's just about walking away from it and doing something else, which does feel good, and just trust that it's
Absolutely.
gonna
And
come.
there's something else that's so helpful. I really think there's something to that about just, letting our brain relax and not think about a thing for a minute can really help. I've had situations where I've gone for a run and then, a chorus has come to me for something I've been working on for months and it's just come to me and been like, okay, brilliant, got it. And then
Yeah.
I've maybe been 4 miles away from home and had to try to remember it in my head the whole way home,
Yeah.
So it depends, and it's like lashing rain, what I mean? But yeah, I think that's super duper helpful. And I've had things where I've had a stressy morning with work and then gone for a lunchtime run or a walk, and suddenly being like, okay, this is how I'm actually going to tackle this, and it becomes more clear. So I think our brain needs that little space to
Mm,
process things properly as well, instead of just loading and loading with it. There are times where we can question ourselves and go, am I procrastinating here? Or, what? But generally, if you're procrastinating, there's something behind it. There's something that you're not comfortable with. So again, like with the why and like drilling down a little bit into that. What is it? Am I tired today? Is there something that someone said that spoke to me? What is it that's actually making me feel a bit yeah right now? And not wanting to do stuff. And then there's days where it's just like, okay, my energy's not in it. I'll just leave that and come back to it. So yeah, I think just again, like tuning in and understanding where you're at.
yeah, I mean, and I think part of that is, yeah, it's just finding the thing that works for you. I think we're all very different. So somebody it might, for somebody it might be being very still, very quiet, and for others it might be going for a run. But it's just knowing when you get, how you work and what works for you, in order to tune in, to listen, to understand yourself. And I think that really is kind of like a big takeaway from what we've said. Just to finish, Jen, if you could go back to your 30-year-old self, is there something that you would love to tell her about what it's like to be
Where
a
I am
little older?
now.
Yes.
Wow, that's a good question. Um, yeah, I would think that to say that you don't need to do all the things all the time. You don't need to be absolutely maxing it on every single level. Um, that things will come. And yeah, who you are in this space and time is not fixed as well. I think those two things would be good. Because I think we can spend a lot of time rushing around and doing things. Um, and that distracts us and actually detracts from us doing authentically a good job or being ourselves and what we actually want to do. So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, I love that.
But I
And
think my
also,
30-year-old self was smashing it as well, to be
yeah.
honest.
Oh well, it sounds like it. Sounds like
No,
it.
that's another thing we got to do as women and just pick ourselves up because,
Yes,
who else is going to do it?
exactly. And the thing is, it's never too late anyway. It's, if you'd felt like your 30-year-old self wasn't smashing it, why not start now?
Absolutely.
Start
My
now. It
goodness.
is never too late. We
Yeah,
can think, okay, well, I'm 52, and it would be very easy to go, well, I've done my stuff now. I've done my majority of my life, and it's rubbish. I've got,
absolutely.
I was at my great aunt's funeral yesterday. She was 103. So I
Oh,
potentially got my whole life to go if I were to live that age. It's like,
amazing.
yeah, it's incredible. So
I've got a person that I work with in music Broth, and she's 61. She won't mind me saying it, and she had a brain injury many years ago, and she's learning drums right now. So
amazing.
and she's playing Karma Chameleon. That's what she's learning.
Oh,
That's her choice of what she wants to learn. She's absolutely smashing it.
love
So
it.
so yeah, I would say that as well. Just what is midlife? It's halfway, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we've potentially got plenty. What do you want to do?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, Jen, thank you. It's been absolutely lovely chatting to you. For anybody who wants to find out more about your music or about your charity, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so we're Music Broth is like the soup. It's a very Scottish word. Music Broth is all one word. .org and our organization is there. You can find out all about us. Anybody wants to get in touch. We work in Scotland with people of all backgrounds and abilities and ages. But yeah, anybody can become a member of the library and support us in that way. That's a great way of supporting what we do. And my music is jenobrien.net is my own website. And then I'm in a band called Steel Joy, which is me and a couple other people. And we've got some music out on Bandcamp and all the places that you can find it. So yeah, come and find us.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been really lovely to chat to you. And yeah, thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Polly. Awesome.
Before you go, just to let you know that you'll find a selection of gentle, practical offers at really accessible prices over on my website. They're all designed to support your everyday breathing, to ease anxiety, and help you build a more resilient, flexible nervous system so you can feel calmer and bring a little more steadiness into your daily life. Everything I share is designed to meet you where you are and to fit into real busy lives. Just go to hollywarren.com and click on the resource library. If you'd like to stay connected between episodes, you can also find me over on Instagram at Polly Warren Coaching. This is where I share simple reminders and tools and reflections to help you come back to calm throughout the week. And if you're enjoying Take a Breath, it would mean so much if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help this podcast reach more women who might need a little space to breathe too. Thank you so much for being here and for taking this time for yourself. And remember, sometimes all you need to do is take a breath.